Hey, what's up? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Carolina Panthers Talk video brought to you by Blitzball Champ Gaming here on the U to the Tube. I'm your host, Blitzball Champ Jason Ingram. I wanted to get on here and just do a quick video. There's an article that I was checking out on ESPN.com written by David Newton that talked about what's next for the Carolina Panthers. The coaching staff is set. Now, what are the next steps? What can we look forward to the Carolina Panthers doing as their next actions now that the coaching staff is pretty much set? You know, barring any minor additions, the coaching staff is pretty much set. So, we're going to talk about some key points in this article. But before we get started, be sure to check out the link in the description for Game Beauty for an awesome lineup of video game themed makeup and cosmetic products. And if you see something that you like, you want to make a purchase, be sure to use the promo code BlitzballChamp, all in caps, and you can get 10% off of your order. So be sure to use that promo code. Get yourself a little discount. Anyway, I'll also link the article in the description as well. It's on ESPN.com. Like I said, it was written by David Newton. So, the next steps for the Carolina Panthers. Panthers haven't been to the playoffs since 2017. They had a chance to last season, but they were one game away. They missed it by one game. All they had to do was win their last two games against the Bucks and the Saints. Lost to the Bucks, beat the Saints, but still wasn't enough. But Carolina came out this offseason on fire, hiring new head coach Frank Reich, who has helped bring on a barrage of a coaching staff. I mean, we got on all three sides of the ball, special teams, defense, offense. Coaching staff, I have to give at least an A. For how this coaching staff has been put together this offseason, I got to give it a solid A. At least a solid A. Now, what's next? What are the next steps for the Carolina Panthers? And David Newton outlined a couple of points in this article. Let's go through these points. Okay. Let's take a look at what's next. That's what it says. Starting off with salary cap. All right? Check out this part of the article. Salary cap. It says here, and I quote, "For a team ranked in the lower half of the league in cap space, the place to start is linebacker Shaq Thompson. He's set to count about $24.5 million against the 2023 cap. Carolina can save $13.16 million by either cutting him or restructuring his deal to save that or more. Now, Shaq Thompson is set to turn age 29 this coming April. Would be a nice fit at inside linebacker with Carolina switching to the 3-4 base scheme under new defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero and Dom Capers as the senior defensive assistant. He also could be a luxury at that position. Now, I have to say, I definitely agree with this. Shaq should definitely, at least, if they don't want to cut him, definitely restructure him. I mean, $24.5 million against the cap, that's big. That's a big chunk of money. So I definitely feel like this is a move that's going to happen, whether they cut him or they restructure. I'm kind of on the fence about both because, you know, Shaq, veteran linebacker, you know, Shaq has done well in stopping the run, you know, especially last season. I know there are times where he's been hit or miss, and I can understand how a lot of people's expectations may have been high about Shaq, especially considering that he did once play in a Super Bowl. He did play with Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. So, you know, it's just something Excuse me. It's just something to think about. But I like Shaq Thompson. Don't get me wrong. I like Shaq Thompson. But this is definitely a critical situation where I definitely think at least restructuring his contract and try to save some of that money. Like I said, they said at least 13.16 million. I think that's a good start. Or, I mean, they may consider cutting him altogether. I mean, either or. I like the dude, so I mean, if they can restructure and we keep him, I'm fine with that. If we cut him, I just hope we can get a replacement. But definitely, I could see some sort of action on Shaq Thompson happening. So I definitely agree with that. Okay, continuing on. Carolina could save another $3.61 million by cutting linebacker Damian Wilson and another $3.1 million by cutting tight end Ian Thomas. All right, let me stop right there. Damian Wilson, I could definitely see happening, to be honest with you. I don't really feel like he made much of an impact this season, this past season. You know, I know he has the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs, but in all honesty, I don't really feel like he's made an impact with Carolina, to just keep it real. But I don't know. Like, had 23 tackles, a forced fumble, 2 sacks. You know, I just, from where he was playing at, I really felt like he could have made more of an impact. But, I mean, I definitely could see them cutting Damian Wilson and kind of going a different direction. So, I could see that happening. Cutting him, save $3.61 million. Fair enough. Now, as far as Ian Thomas, so it says that they could save $3.1 million by cutting him. This, I'm a little on the fence about, because one may wonder a couple of things. So number one, is Ian Thomas's time up? I know he recently got an extension, actually before the season started. But one may feel that he's had enough chances, which is a fair argument. But at the same time, one could also say that he hasn't had a lot of chances in the receiving game just based on number of times he's targeted versus just passing plays called for him, which is also a fair argument. But another thing is time up on Ian Thomas as far as his ceiling, his potential, his overall potential? Can he improve, or is this the best that we will see of Ian Thomas? Because to be honest with you, I feel like we've seen him a lot more as a blocking tight end in the run game than so much as a receiver. Because, I mean, you look at Ian Thomas's stats last season, 21 catches, 197 yards. You know, no touchdowns. So, I mean, I don't know, y'all. I mean, his best season was his rookie season. I mean, with 36 catches, 333 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, not to mention he's been healthy. He's been playing the games. I mean, 2018 to 2020, he's played in 16 games, and 2021 to 2022, he's played in every game. So, I don't know, y'all. I can definitely see why the idea of cutting Ian Thomas is in this article. I could definitely understand that. I can understand that. But I don't know. Maybe he's reached the ceiling. Maybe he hasn't had enough chances. I'll let y'all decide on that. That's all I can say. Continuing. giving edge rusher Brian Burns set to count $16 million under the cap under his 5th-year option, an extension that would lighten the cap hit this year is a likely option. So that's another thing. So with these cuts, like Damian Wilson, Ian Thomas, this would give edge rusher Brian Burns set to count $16 million under the cap under his 5th-year option, because he still has that, which I believe has been activated. But if they were to go ahead and give Brian Burns an extension, it would lighten the cap hit this year. So maybe they'll work something out, but I mean, they did activate his 5th-year option. They are giving him that, but hopefully they can work out an extension. Because I mean, Brian Burns, sack leader once again. You know, went to a Pro Bowl. I mean, you know, he wasn't the sack leader when we had Hassan Reddick, but they were both neck and neck. But I mean, Brian Burns, I mean, he's good. You know, he's good coming off the edge. I mean, he's our best guy on the D-line. So, I mean, definitely I think we should look out for him. But we'll have to see what happens with him. But, I mean, he's our best D-lineman. He's our best D-lineman. So, wide receiver DJ Moore, with a $25.04 million cap hit this season, is a strong candidate for restructure to clear another $12 million or so. That we should definitely do. And you know what? I got a feeling DJ Moore won't have a problem with that. But I definitely believe restructuring DJ Moore's contract is inevitable. Is definitely inevitable. Now, the word is that they have gone ahead and restructured Austin Corbett's contract. Let me see if I can pull up the numbers for that. Yeah, here we go. So they did restructure offensive lineman Austin Corbett's contract. So they converted $6.72 million of the salary plus a $1 million roster bonus into a signing bonus, which clears $5.79 million of cap space. So that was a good move. That was a good move. And you know what? I believe that, I mean, freeing up nearly $6 million in cap, I think will definitely help. And let's not forget, we still have Austin Corbett for two more years, because when we signed him on, he signed a 3-year contract. So I believe that'll definitely help. That'll definitely help. But yeah, I definitely think restructuring DJ Moore and at least restructuring Shaq Thompson, I think, should definitely be done, for sure. Regardless, the cap will be tight, but the good news is that 18 of 22 starters are under contract. And that's why I'm saying, like, with the loss of players and free agency from the Panthers roster, there's not really a lot of big names that we'd be losing. You know what I mean? So at least there's some positive in this. There's definitely some positive in this. But the end goal is potentially being able to get back and save $50 million in cap, which would definitely help. So we'll have to see what they end up doing. But I think Shaq and DJ should definitely be done as far as restructuring. Damian Wilson cutting, yes. Ian Thomas, I'm on the fence about, but I could see it see why it's an option. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about franchise quarterback. With this section of the article, here's what it says. It says Carolina going hard initially after former Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Derek Carr is unlikely, according to a league source. The price is too steep, which has been what the main thing that I've been saying. He would cost too much. He would cost too much. We have to remember, we're talking about somebody that was a 4-time Pro Bowl quarterback. He's not going to take chump change. And he's only, 31 years old? He's not going to take chump change. And besides, this was a dude that that recently had a no-trade clause. You know, Derek Carr, while we do need a quarterback, just pursuing him, it's going to cost too much. It's going to cost too much. It also says, so it's likely the Panthers look to re-sign free agent Sam Darnold or another veteran for a high-end number 2 quarterback price, $8 million to $12 million range, and draft a quarterback with the number 9 overall pick. Yeah, I just feel like that makes the most sense. And, you know, the idea of Sam Darnold, you know, as potentially, you know, the bridge / backup, I mean, I could see that happening. I mean, the dude is still in his mid-20s. 25 to be specific? Yeah, the dude is 25. So, I mean, hopefully would be able, you know, to be cheap. A cheap price. But I do definitely believe they're going to draft a quarterback. Definitely going to believe they're going to draft a quarterback. And whoever that quarterback is and Matt Corral will compete. And at the same time, we have to remember, Matt Corral is also coming off of a Lisfranc injury. So that's another thing we have to remember. You know, he's coming off a Lisfranc injury. So hopefully he'll be able to come back healthy, but it's not a guarantee. But I do believe he deserves to compete for that starting quarterback position. But yes, this is why I really feel like we need to let go of pursuing Derek Carr. And it even says here that according to a league source, it's unlikely that Carolina is going to go hard for him. They need to start fresh. Anyway, continuing on, it says, don't be surprised if they trade into the top 3 to assure they get their guy among Alabama's Bryce Young, Ohio State's C.J. Stroud, and Kentucky's Will Levis. The only quarterbacks under contract currently are 2022 third-round pick Matt Corral and 25-year-old journeyman Jacob Eason. That right there alone is suggesting they're going to draft a quarterback. Or at least bring back Sam Darnold and then some with the drafting a quarterback. So I'm pretty sure that's inevitable, that they're going to draft a quarterback. Now, them trading up into the top 3, yeah, more and more I hear about it, I could see it happening. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. But franchise quarterback is a big need for Carolina, no doubt about it. Okay. Next up, tight end. Here's what it says. Here's perspective. Tight end Travis Kelce of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs had 27 catches and 4 touchdowns in 3 playoff games. The entire Carolina tight end room had 50 catches for 3 touchdowns in 17 regular season games. Do the math. The Panthers haven't had a receiving threat at tight end since Mr. Reliable Greg Olsen, who caught 52 passes in 2019. Thomas, as good as he is as a blocker, hasn't had more than 21 catches in any of the past 4 seasons. Like I said, the only time he's had more than that was his rookie season. Tommy Tremble, who had 3 touchdowns on 19 catches last season, can fill Thomas's role. What Carolina needs is a Kelsey-like threat. Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys, Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins could be options in free agency. This also is a good year to get a tight end in the 2nd or 3rd round of the draft. That's another thing that's been said, is that the tight end class coming into the draft is actually really strong. So that could be something that they do. But, I mean, it's just like what I said earlier about Ian Thomas. I mean, maybe he's had enough chances, and maybe Tommy Tremble will take his place. We draft a tight end. As far as one of those veteran tight ends that I named, Dalton Schultz, Evan Ingram, Mike Gesicki, it really just depends on how much they would cost. But I definitely agree that it would be great if they could get another threat of a tight end, because they haven't had one since Greg Olsen. So I think, you know what? I'm thinking in the draft, they're probably going to pick up a tight end. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, next, interior defensive lineman. Here's what it says. Edge rushers Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu have a chance to thrive in the Panthers' 3-4 scheme, as Kevin Green and Lamar Lathan did for Carolina under Capers in 1996. Green had a league-best 14.5 sacks, and Lathan was tied for second with 13.5 sacks. That's another reason to extend Burns now, because his price could go up after 2023. And of course, we had talked about that, with Brian Burns, the 5th-year option, getting an extension in will, cut into that cap. The focus in free agency and the draft has to be on big men to eat up blocks. Tackle Derek Brown, as Capers told ESPN.com, can fit into any scheme. YGM, Yetur Gross-Matos, could fit in as an end this scheme. But the Panthers need to add another big body or two to free Burns and Louvu to rush the passer. So, they definitely need another big body. So I definitely agree. And like I said, the defensive line this past season, there were a few highlights. Brian Burns, Derek Brown. But the D-line definitely needs some improvement, for sure. Definitely needs some improvement. But hopefully, not only just improvement, but being able to transition back to the 3-4 scheme and be able to thrive off of it, I think is definitely important. And then finally, Bradley Bozeman and Deonta Foreman. Spotlight on these two. It says, Carolina needs to re-sign center Bradley Bozeman and running back Deonta Foreman. Both were a big part of a late season surge that kept the Panthers in playoff contention. Both of them want to return. Could likely be had for mid-range salaries and would take pressure off the quarterback. I've been saying this for a long while, that if there are two folks that we should really re-sign, is Bradley Bozeman and Deonta Foreman. Even going back to when I talked about free agents from Carolina that we should consider bringing back. The main three that I mentioned were Bradley Bozeman, Deontay Foreman, and then the optional one was Eddie Pinheiro, just depending on how they feel about Zane Gonzalez health-wise, and also just seeing if they could get him cheap. But being that Zane Gonzalez is still under contract for at least one more year, I could see them not bringing back Pinheiro and sticking with Zane. Zane, who is still a great kicker, who's also been consistent when he's been on the field. So you got options there. But there's also the option of, letting him go and maybe going with Eddie Pinheiro. Could probably get him cheaper, but at least he showed signs of consistency after the Atlanta meltdown. He didn't miss another kick after that game. So, something to think about. But, yeah, I definitely get the gist of this article. A lot of good points made in this article. So, we'll just have to see what happens. But I think definitely getting that salary cap under control, I think is the next big priority. Got to shuffle some stuff, make some cuts, do some restructuring, and then just really utilize the money that we can save. And then also prepare for the draft. That's really all there is to it. But thought this was a good article. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. What do y'all think? What do y'all think about each of the subjects that were mentioned? Salary cap, franchise quarterback, the tight end situation, interior defensive linemen, and Bradley Bozeman, Deontay Foreman. Should we bring them back? Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Don't forget to check out the link to Game Beauty as well. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell while you're at it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. For another Carolina Panthers talk video brought to you by Blitzball Champ Gaming here on the U to the Tube. I am your host, Jason Ingram. I hope everybody has a blessed weekend, and I will see y'all in the next video. Take care. Peace.